Today, we're taking a closer look at a fascinating group of United States Lincoln Wheat cents. These historic 1-cent coins feature the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln and the classic wheat ear reverse. In this video, we will explore their history, design, mint marks, composition, rarity, condition, varieties, errors, and collector value. Each coin has its own story, and together they provide an interesting look into the history of American coinage. Welcome to the channel. Today, we are exploring a fascinating collection of United States Lincoln Wheat cents. These historic 1-cent coins carry the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln and the classic wheat ear design. We'll take a closer look at their history, details, mint marks, condition, rarity, errors, varieties, and possible collector value. So stay with us and enjoy discovering the stories behind these remarkable American coins. The 1945 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark is a historic United States 1-cent coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint during the final year of World War II. The absence of a mint mark is completely normal for this coin, because Philadelphia did not place a mint mark on its regular Lincoln cents during this period. The 1945 Lincoln cent is especially interesting to collectors because it belongs to the final year of the wartime era, when the United States was still producing enormous quantities of coins to support an economy affected by global conflict. The Lincoln Wheat Cent series itself began in 1909 and continued through 1958, making the 1945 issue an important mid-century example of the famous wheat ear design. The regular 1945 Philadelphia Lincoln cent had a reported mintage of approximately 1,040,515,000 coins, so the date is common overall, although high-quality examples can be much more difficult to locate. PCGS.com, https://www.pcgs.com/coinfax/coin/1945-1CRD/2683 source equals chat.com. The obverse, or front of the coin, displays the famous right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. The portrait was created by Victor David Brenner and first appeared on the Lincoln cent in 1909. Above Lincoln's portrait is the inscription, "In God We Trust," while Liberty appears to the left of the portrait. The date, 1945, is positioned to the right of Lincoln. Because this coin was struck at Philadelphia, there is no letter beneath or beside the date indicating a mint. The absence of a mint mark, therefore, identifies the coin as the Philadelphia issue rather than representing damage or an erased mint mark. The reverse of the 1945 Lincoln Wheat Penny contains the classic wheat ear design. Two wheat stalks frame the central inscriptions. At the top appears the Latin motto E Pluribus Unum, which is commonly translated as "out of many, one." In the center is the denomination 1 cent, and below it is United States of America. The wheat reverse was used on Lincoln cents from 1909 through 1958, meaning that the 1945 coin is part of a design tradition that lasted nearly half a century. The distinctive wheat ears are the reason collectors commonly call these coins wheat pennies, wheat cents, or wheaties. The physical specifications of the 1945 Philadelphia Lincoln cent are consistent with the traditional bronze Lincoln cents of the era. The coin is approximately 19 millimeters in diameter, weighs about 3.11 grams, and has a plain edge. Its standard composition is approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. The high copper content gives surviving examples their familiar brown, reddish-brown, or red appearance. Natural copper tunning can develop over many decades, and the final color of a coin depends heavily on how it was stored and exposed to the environment. PCGS.com, https://www.pcgs.com/coin/1945-1CRD/2683 source equals chat.com. The lack of a mint mark is one of the easiest ways to identify the 1945 Philadelphia issue. During this period, coins struck at Denver carry a D, while coins struck at San Francisco carry an S. Philadelphia cents were produced without a mint letter. Therefore, a 1945 Lincoln cent with no mint mark is normally identified as the Philadelphia issue. Collectors should inspect the area near the date carefully, but there is no missing letter to look for on a genuine Philadelphia coin. This is an intentional feature of the coin's manufacture. The 1945 Philadelphia cent had an enormous production run of approximately 1.04 billion pieces. This makes it a common date compared with many earlier Lincoln cents. However, the large mintage should not lead collectors to dismiss every example as insignificant. Over the decades, many coins were heavily circulated, lost, damaged, or exposed to unfavorable storage conditions. The surviving population in the highest mint state grades is much smaller. This creates an important difference between mintage rarity and condition rarity. A circulated 1945 Lincoln cent normally shows wear on Lincoln's cheek, jaw, hair, coat, and other raised portions of the portrait. The wheat stalks on the reverse can also become less detailed as the coin experiences circulation. An uncirculated example, by contrast, can retain much sharper design details and original mint luster. But even an uncirculated coin may have contact marks, carbon spots, discoloration, or other surface problems. For that reason, professional grading considers the entire coin rather than simply determining whether it appears old or shiny. Copper color is particularly important when evaluating a 1945 Lincoln cent. Professional grading services generally use the designations BN, RB, and RD. BN means brown, RB means red-brown, and RD means red. A brown coin has experienced significant natural color change, while a red-brown example retains a mixture of reddish copper and darker tones. A red coin retains much more of the original reddish-orange copper appearance. In high grades, a genuine original red example can be much more desirable than a brown example of the same numerical grade. PCGS records separate brown, red-brown, and red categories for the 1945 Philadelphia cent. This illustrates how much attention collectors give to the preservation of original copper color. A high-grade coin with attractive original red surfaces can be considerably more valuable than an ordinary circulated brown example. However, collectors should be careful because artificial cleaning or chemical treatment can create an unnatural bright appearance that does not represent original mint color. PCGS.com, https://www.pcgs.com/coinfax/coin/1945-1crd/2683 Utum source equals chat.com. The historical significance of the 1945 Lincoln cent is especially strong because 1945 was the final year of World War II. American factories, workers, soldiers, and financial institutions were still operating under wartime conditions when these coins entered circulation. The United States had been involved in the war since 1941, and the country was producing enormous quantities of military equipment and supplies. A simple 1-cent coin from 1945 therefore represents an important moment in American history, connecting everyday commerce with the final months of a global conflict. The wartime period also had a major effect on United States coinage. Copper was considered strategically important for military production, so the mint experimented with alternative compositions for the Lincoln cent. In 1943, regular cents were made primarily from zinc-coated steel instead of the traditional bronze. In 1944, the mint returned to a bronze composition, using copper recovered in part from spent ammunition shell casings. The 1945 cent belongs to this unusual period of wartime and post-war-related coin production, and is therefore especially interesting to collectors who study World War II coinage. The 1945 Philadelphia cent should not be confused with the famous 1943 bronze cent or other major wartime errors. The normal 1945 cent was correctly struck in bronze. A regular 1945 coin is therefore not automatically rare simply because it is associated with World War II. The famous 1943 bronze cents are separate and extremely rare errors resulting from the accidental use of leftover bronze planchets. A normal 1945 Lincoln cent is a standard issue. When examining a 1945 no-mint mark penny, collectors should begin by confirming the date. The four digits should clearly read 1945. Next, check the area near the date to verify that there is no mint mark. Then inspect the portrait of Lincoln for wear and surface damage. Look carefully at the hair, cheek, jaw, coat, and the word Liberty. On the reverse, examine the wheat ears and the lettering, including EPLURIBUSUNUM, 1 cent, and United States of America. The condition of the surfaces is one of the most important factors affecting the coin's collector appeal. Copper cents frequently develop spots, stains, corrosion, dark tunning, or other environmental problems. Some natural tunning can be attractive, but harsh cleaning is usually undesirable. Scrubbing or polishing the coin can leave fine scratches and remove original surface characteristics. If a 1945 cent appears to have substantial collector value, it is generally better to preserve the coin in its existing condition rather than attempting to make it look newer. Strike quality is another consideration. A coin can be uncirculated but still have areas that were not fully struck by the dies. Collectors looking for premium examples often prefer coins with sharp details and strong overall definition. The wheat stalks, lettering, Lincoln's hair, and other raised details can all provide clues about the quality of the strike. Strong luster combined with clean surfaces and attractive original color can make a mint-state 1945 cent particularly appealing. The 1945 Philadelphia cent is also interesting when compared with the 1945D and 1945 S Lincoln cents. The three major mint facilities produced separate issues, and the mint mark allows collectors to distinguish them. Philadelphia coins have no mint mark, Denver coins have a D, and San Francisco coins have an S. Building a collection containing all three 1945 issues is a useful way for beginning collectors to learn how mint marks work and how different production facilities can create separate collectible varieties. The large Philadelphia mintage means that the 1945 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is generally not a rare date in circulated condition. Millions of examples survived because the coin was produced in enormous quantities. Nevertheless, high-grade examples are a different matter. Collectors have spent decades searching for coins with nearly perfect surfaces, strong strikes, original red color, and minimal contact marks. At the upper end of the grading scale, the population becomes dramatically smaller. PCGS records significant auction results for exceptionally high-grade 1945 Lincoln cents. The 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark is a historically important United States 1-cent coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint during the final full year of World War II. The absence of a mint mark is normal for this issue, because Philadelphia did not place a mint mark on its regular Lincoln cents. The 1944 Philadelphia Lincoln cent belongs to the famous Lincoln Wheat cent series, which began in 1909 and continued through 1958. With a reported mintage of 1,435,400,000 coins, the 1944 Philadelphia cent was the first Lincoln cent issue to exceed 1 billion pieces, making it a fascinating example of enormous wartime-era coin production. Despite its huge mintage, exceptional high-grade examples are considerably more difficult to find than ordinary circulated specimens. The obverse or front side of the 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny features the famous right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. The portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner, whose Lincoln cent design was introduced in 1909. Above Lincoln's head is the inscription "In God We Trust," while the word "Liberty" appears to the left of the portrait. The date, 1944, appears on the right side. Since this particular coin was produced at Philadelphia, there is no letter beside the date identifying a mint. The absence of a mint mark is therefore an intentional characteristic of the Philadelphia issue and should not be mistaken for a missing or damaged mint mark. The reverse of the 1944 Lincoln cent displays the classic wheat ear design, which is responsible for the coin's popular names wheat penny, wheat cent, and wheatie. Two wheat stalks curve around the central inscriptions. At the top is the Latin motto E Pluribus Unum, commonly translated as "out of many, one." In the center are the words "1 cent," while United States of America appears below. This reverse design was used continuously from 1909 through 1958, making the 1944 issue part of a nearly 50-year chapter in American coinage. The physical specifications of the regular 1944 Philadelphia Lincoln cent are approximately 19 millimeters in diameter and 3.11 grams in weight, with a plain edge. PCGS lists the composition as approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. The 1944 cent is particularly interesting because it represents the return to the traditional copper-based composition after the unusual 1943 steel cents. The metal composition also explains why surviving 1944 cents can display brown, reddish-brown, or red coloration, depending on their preservation and exposure to the environment. The no mint mark is one of the easiest ways to identify this coin as a Philadelphia issue. During this period, coins from Denver carried a D, coins from San Francisco carried an S, while Philadelphia's regular cents carried no mint letter. Therefore, if a 1944 Lincoln cent has no mint mark in the normal mint mark location, it is generally the Philadelphia issue. Collectors should still inspect the coin carefully, but there is no missing letter that needs to be restored or discovered on a normal 1944 Philadelphia cent. The mintage of 1,435,400,000 pieces is one of the most remarkable facts about this coin. According to PCGS and Graysheet information, the 1944 issue was the earliest Lincoln cent to exceed 1 billion coins in production. Such enormous output was connected to the huge demand for small denomination coinage during the World War II period. The sheer number of coins produced means that the ordinary 1944 Philadelphia cent is not a rare date in circulated condition. However, the population becomes much smaller when collectors look for exceptional mint-state examples. This creates an important distinction between mintage rarity and condition rarity. A coin can have a huge original mintage and still be difficult to find in superb condition. PCGS estimates approximately 143 million surviving 1944 Philadelphia cents in all grades, around 18,000 in MS-60 or better, and around 9,000 in MS-65 or better. These are estimates rather than an exact count of every surviving coin, but they illustrate how dramatically the number of available examples decreases at higher grades. A circulated 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny will normally show wear on Lincoln's cheek, jaw, hair, coat, and other raised portions of the portrait. The wheat stalks on the reverse may also become flattened or less distinct from years of circulation. By contrast, a mint-state example can retain much sharper details and original mint luster. However, an uncirculated coin can still have contact marks, carbon spots, discoloration, or weak strike characteristics. Therefore, collectors should examine the complete surface and not judge a coin simply because it appears shiny or has never obviously been spent. Copper color is especially important when evaluating a 1944 Lincoln cent. Professional grading services generally use BN, RB, and RD designations. BN means brown, RB means red-brown, and RD means red. Brown coins have undergone more natural color change, while red-brown coins retain a mixture of reddish and brown coloration. Red examples retain a substantial amount of their original copper color. At high grades, original red color can add considerable collector appeal when combined with clean surfaces and strong strike quality. PCGS catalogs separate brown, red-brown, and red versions of the 1944 Philadelphia cent. The historical story behind the 1944 cent is particularly fascinating because 1944 was a major wartime year. The United States was still deeply involved in World War II, and industrial production was focused heavily on supporting the military. Copper and other metals were strategically important, which directly affected the nation's coinage. The previous year's 1943 Lincoln cents had been made from zinc-coated steel rather than the traditional bronze alloy. In 1944, the mint returned to a copper-based composition. For many years, the 1944 cents were popularly described as being made from spent shell casings recovered from World War II. There is some truth to the historical association between wartime copper recycling and the 1944 cent, but the complete story is more complicated. PCGS notes research challenging the idea that the enormous 1944 mintage could have been made entirely from recycled shell casings. Wartime material was incorporated into the metal supply, but the entire composition should not simply be described as nothing more than battlefield shell casings. The return to copper in 1944 is one reason this coin is often collected alongside the famous 1943 steel cent. The 1943 cent was an unusual zinc-coated steel coin created because copper was strategically needed during the war. In 1944, the mint returned to a copper alloy. This makes the 1943 and 1944 Lincoln cents an excellent pair for collectors studying how wartime conditions influenced American coin manufacturing. The 1944 no-mint mark cent should also be distinguished from the extremely rare 1944 steel cent. The normal 1944 Philadelphia cent is a copper-based coin. A genuine 1944 steel cent is an extraordinary off-metal error associated with leftover steel planchets from the previous year's production. PCGS identifies 1944 steel cents as an extremely valuable error category, with examples known from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Therefore, a normal bronze or copper alloy 1944 cent should not be confused with this rare error. The 1944 steel cent is particularly important because it demonstrates how valuable an authenticated mint error can be. PCGS explains that the major off-metal Lincoln cent errors of 1943 and 1944 can reach 5- and 6-figure prices. However, this does not mean that an ordinary 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny is worth that amount. The extremely valuable examples are genuine wrong metal strikes that must be authenticated. A normal 1944 Philadelphia cent is a common issue in circulated grades. When examining a 1944 no-mint mark penny, collectors should first verify the date and then check the mint mark area. The absence of a mint mark identifies Philadelphia for this regular issue. Next, inspect Lincoln's portrait, the date, Liberty, and In God We Trust. On the reverse, carefully examine the wheat stalks, EPLURIBUS UNUM 1 cent, and United States of America. Good lighting and magnification can help reveal details that are difficult to see with the naked eye. The surface condition of a 1944 cent is extremely important. Copper coins can develop dark spots, stains, corrosion, or other environmental problems. Natural tunning is not automatically a defect, and some collectors actually prefer attractive original coloration. However, harsh cleaning can leave fine scratches and an unnatural appearance. A collector should therefore avoid polishing or chemically cleaning an old 1944 wheat penny. original surfaces are generally much more desirable than artificially brightened surfaces. The quality of the strike should also be considered. Some coins may have limited circulation wear but still have areas of weakness from the manufacturing process. High-grade collectors generally prefer coins with strong details, attractive luster, clean surfaces, and good overall eye appeal. Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, and coat can be examined for detail, while the wheat stalks and lettering on the reverse can help reveal the strength of the strike. The 1944 Philadelphia cent is also useful for understanding the difference between ordinary wear and mint state preservation. A circulated coin gradually loses its original luster as it moves through commerce. Contact with other coins, pockets, machines, and surfaces can produce scratches and marks. A coin that remained in storage may retain much more of its original appearance. Professional grading takes these factors into account when assigning a numerical. The 1952 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark is a classic United States 1-cent coin from the final decade of the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series. This coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and because Philadelphia did not place a mint mark on its regular Lincoln cents, the absence of a letter beneath the date is an important identifying feature. The 1952 Philadelphia Lincoln cent is part of the Lincoln cent series that began in 1909 and continued through 1958, making this coin part of one of the longest-running and most recognizable designs in American coinage. According to PCGS Coin Facts, the regular 1952 Philadelphia issue had a mintage of 186,775,000 coins. The obverse, or front side, of the 1952 Lincoln Wheat Penny features the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Lincoln faces toward the right, and the portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner, whose original Lincoln cent design was introduced in 1909. Above Lincoln's portrait is the important inscription, "In God We Trust." The word liberty appears to the left of Lincoln, while the date, 1952, appears on the right side of the portrait. Because this particular coin was produced at Philadelphia, there is no mint mark beside the date. This lack of a mint mark is not a defect or missing piece. It is the normal identifying characteristic of a Philadelphia minted 1952 cent. The reverse of the coin carries the traditional wheat ear design, which gives the Lincoln Wheat Cent its familiar nickname, Wheat Penny or Wheatie. Two wheat stalks curve around the central inscriptions. At the top is the Latin motto E Pluribus Unum, which translates approximately to out of many one. In the center are the words 1 cent, and underneath is United States of America. This reverse design was used from the beginning of the Lincoln Wheat Cent series in 1909 until the wheat reverse was replaced in 1959. The 1952 coin, therefore, represents an important late-period example of Victor David Brenner's original Lincoln cent design. The 1952 Philadelphia Lincoln cent has a diameter of approximately 19 millimeters and weighs about 3.11 grams. It has a plain edge, meaning there are no grooves or reeds around the edge. The coin was struck in the traditional bronze composition of approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This composition gives many surviving examples their characteristic brown, reddish-brown, or reddish copper appearance. PCGS lists the regular 1952 Philadelphia cent as a 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc coin with a 19 millimeter diameter and 3.11 gram weight. The absence of a mint mark is one of the first things collectors should check when identifying this coin. On a 1952 Lincoln cent, the area immediately to the right of Lincoln's portrait and near the date is where a mint mark would normally appear on coins struck at Denver or San Francisco. If there is no letter, the coin is identified as the Philadelphia issue. This should not be confused with a damaged or worn-away mint mark. Since Philadelphia intentionally produced regular cents without a mint mark, A genuine 1952 Philadelphia cent naturally has no mint letter. The major 1952 regular issues included Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, so checking the mint mark is essential when separating the varieties. The Philadelphia Mint produced 186,775,000 regular 1952 Lincoln cents, while Denver produced a much larger number, and San Francisco also produced a separate issue. The surviving 1952 Philadelphia cents are therefore not considered extremely rare as a date, but the coin becomes more interesting when it is found in exceptionally high condition. Graysheet describes the 1952 Philadelphia cent as one of the tougher 1950s Philadelphia cents in the higher gem grades, and notes that it becomes a condition rarity around MS66 and above. This distinction between mintage rarity and condition rarity is extremely important. A coin can have a relatively modest original production figure and still be common in circulated condition because many examples survived. At the same time, relatively few examples may survive with virtually perfect surfaces, strong original color, and exceptional strike quality. For the 1952 Philadelphia Lincoln cent, ordinary circulated pieces are much easier to find than top-quality mint-state examples. Therefore, the grade and preservation of an individual coin are much more important to its value than the date alone. Collectors generally examine Lincoln cents using grading levels that range from heavily worn circulated coins to extremely high mint-state examples. A circulated 1952 cent may show wear on Lincoln's cheek, jaw, hair, and coat. The wheat stalks on the reverse can also lose sharpness as the coin experiences circulation. A coin that has never been circulated may retain much more detail and may have a stronger original appearance. However, simply finding an uncirculated 1952 cent does not automatically make it extremely valuable. The highest grades require exceptional surfaces, color, strike, and overall eye appeal. Another important feature of copper Lincoln cents is color designation. Professional grading services commonly classify copper coins as BN, RB, or RD. BN means brown, RB means red-brown, and RD means red. These designations describe the amount of original copper color remaining on the coin. A brown coin may have developed darker natural coloration over decades, while a red-brown coin retains some original reddish copper color. A red example retains a much greater amount of its original red appearance. In high grades, original red color can make a major difference in collector demand and market value. PCGS lists separate 1952 Philadelphia varieties under BN, RB, and RD designations. A collector examining a 1952 no-mint mark penny should pay close attention to the surface quality. Look for scratches, stains, carbon spots, corrosion, dents, rim damage, and signs of cleaning. Copper is particularly sensitive to environmental conditions, so many old wheat cents have developed natural tunning or discoloration. Natural tunning is not necessarily a problem, but harsh cleaning can leave unnatural brightness and fine scratches across the surface. A collector should generally avoid polishing or chemically cleaning an old Lincoln cent, because cleaning can substantially reduce its numismatic appeal. The quality of Lincoln's portrait is also important. On a well-preserved coin, the hair details, cheek, jawline, and other design features should remain sharp. The word Liberty and the date should be examined for wear and damage. Because the date is one of the most important identifying characteristics, collectors should make sure that the digits are original and clearly visible. On the reverse, the wheat stalks should be inspected for detail, along with the lettering of 1 cent, United States of America, and EPLURIBUS UNUM. The 1952 Lincoln cent also has an interesting place in American history. By 1952, the United States was living through the early Cold War period, while the country was also experiencing major economic, technological, and cultural changes. The Lincoln cent circulating during this period was still using the original wheat reverse that had been introduced more than 4 decades earlier. Millions of Americans would have encountered coins like the 1952 cent in everyday commerce, making this small copper coin a tangible reminder of mid-20th century American life. The Lincoln cent itself has a remarkable history. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln was introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The design became one of the most recognizable pieces of American coinage. The wheat reverse remained in production for decades, meaning that generations of Americans became familiar with the 2 wheat ears surrounding the denomination. The 1952 issue belongs to the later part of that long-running era, only several years before the reverse was changed. The wheat reverse is especially important because 1952 was not a modern Lincoln Memorial cent. The Lincoln Memorial reverse was introduced in 1959, so anyone holding a 1952 cent is holding an example of the earlier wheat design. The transition from the wheat reverse to the Memorial reverse marked a major change in the history of the Lincoln cent. This makes late wheat cents such as the 1952 Philadelphia issue appealing to collectors building complete Lincoln cent collections. The words on the coin also have historical significance. "In God We Trust" appears prominently on the obverse, while liberty emphasizes a Central American ideal. The reverse motto, EPLURIBUSUNUM, expresses the concept of unity from many parts. Together with United States of America and 1 cent, these inscriptions make the coin a small but highly recognizable representation of American national identity and government-issued currency. When it comes to value, it is important not to believe claims that every 1952 wheat penny is automatically worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The majority of circulated 1952 Philadelphia cents are not rare treasures. Their value is generally determined by condition, originality, collector demand, and whether the coin possesses a recognized variety or exceptional grade. The great prices sometimes seen online are usually associated with unusually high-grade certified examples rather than ordinary coins pulled from circulation or an old collection. PCGS records a significant auction result for a very high-grade 1952 Lincoln cent graded MS-67, with an auction record of $9,775. This is an excellent example of why condition can dramatically affect value. It does not mean that every 1952 no-mint mark wheat penny is worth thousands of dollars. Instead, it shows what an exceptional, professionally graded specimen can achieve in the collector market. The 1953 D Lincoln Wheat Penny is a classic United States 1 cent coin struck at the Denver Mint and identified by the small D mint mark on the obverse. It belongs to the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series, which began in 1909 and continued through 1958. The 1953 D is therefore part of the later era of the Wheat Penny series and is especially interesting because it was produced only a few years before the wheat reverse was discontinued. The regular 1953 D Lincoln cent had a reported mintage of approximately 700,515,000 pieces, making it a common date in circulated grades, although high-grade examples with excellent surfaces and original color can be considerably more difficult to locate. PCGS.com, https://www.pcgs.com/coinfax/coin/1953d1 crd/2817 Udum source equals chat.com. The obverse, or front side, of the 1953 D Lincoln Wheat Penny features the famous right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Lincoln's portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner, whose Lincoln cent design was introduced in 1909. Above Lincoln's portrait is the inscription "In God We Trust." The word "liberty" appears to the left of Lincoln, while the date 1953 appears to the right. Immediately near the date is the D mint mark, which identifies the Denver Mint as the facility that produced the coin. These features make the 1953 D easy to distinguish from the Philadelphia and San Francisco issues of the same year. The reverse of the 1953 D Lincoln cent displays the famous wheat ear design. Two wheat stalks curve around the central inscriptions, giving the coin its popular name of wheat penny or wheat cent. At the top of the reverse is the Latin motto E pluribus unum, generally translated as out of many, one. In the center are the words 1 cent, and below them is United States of America. The wheat reverse was used on Lincoln cents from 1909 through 1958. Consequently, the 1953 D is part of the final decade of the original Lincoln Wheat design. PCGS.com, https://www.pcgs.com/coinfax/coin/1953D1 CRD/2817 Udum source equals chat.com. The 1953 D Lincoln cent was struck using the traditional bronze composition of the period. It contains approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, measures about 19 millimeters in diameter, weighs approximately 3.11 grams, and has a plain edge. These specifications are typical of the Lincoln Wheat cents produced before the major composition changes that occurred many decades later. Because the coin contains a large percentage of copper, its surfaces can naturally develop brown, reddish-brown, or red coloration over time depending on storage conditions and exposure to the environment. PCGS.com, https://www.pcgs.com/coinfax/coin/1953D1 CRD/2817 Udum source equals chat.com. The D mint mark is one of the most important identification features of the coin. It appears on the obverse near the date. Philadelphia Lincoln cents from this period have no mint mark, Denver cents have a D, and San Francisco cents have an S. Therefore, if a 1953 Lincoln cent has a clearly visible D beside the date, it is the Denver issue. Collectors should examine the mint mark carefully, because worn coins can make small letters difficult to see. But the D is an essential part of the coin's identification. The 1953 D's mintage of approximately 700.5 million pieces means that the coin is not generally considered a scarce date in ordinary circulated condition. Millions of examples survived because the original production was so large. However, many of those coins were heavily circulated and developed wear, scratches, discoloration, or other surface problems. The number of surviving examples in the highest grades is much smaller. This creates the important distinction between overall availability and condition rarity. A circulated 1953 D Lincoln cent can show wear on Lincoln's cheek, jaw, hair, coat, and other raised areas. The wheat stalks and lettering on the reverse may also become less distinct through circulation. By contrast, an uncirculated coin can retain its original design details and mint luster. However, an uncirculated coin may still have contact marks from other coins, carbon spots, stains, or weak strike characteristics. Collectors therefore examine the entire coin when determining its quality. Copper color is another major factor in the collecting market. Professional grading services commonly classify Lincoln cents as BN, RB, or RD. BN means brown, RB means red-brown, and RD means red. Brown coins have undergone more natural color change, while red-brown coins retain a combination of reddish and brown coloration. Red examples retain a much greater amount of their original copper color. When a 1953 D cent combines original red color with a very high grade and clean surfaces, it can become significantly more desirable. PCGS provides separate classifications for brown, red-brown, and red 1953 D Lincoln cents. The population of coins becomes much smaller as the grade rises, particularly among coins that retain strong original red color. This is why collectors should not evaluate a 1953D solely by its mintage. A common date coin can still become a condition rarity when very few examples survive in exceptional condition. PCGS.com, https://www.pcgs.com/coinfax/coin/1953D1 CRD/2817 Item source equals chat.com. The historical background of the 1953D Lincoln cent is also significant. The coin was produced during the early Cold War period, only a few years after the end of World War II. The United States was experiencing major economic, technological, and social changes, while the Lincoln cent remained almost unchanged in its basic design. Americans continued to use these copper wheat cents in everyday commerce, making the 1953D a tangible connection to life in the early 1950s. The Lincoln Wheat cent itself has a remarkable history. The design was introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Victor David Brenner's portrait became one of the most recognizable images on United States coinage. The wheat ear reverse continued for nearly 50 years, surviving through World War I, the Roaring Twenties, the Great Depression, World War II, and the beginning of the post-war era. The 1953D, therefore, represents the final portion of a very long and historically rich design period. The wheat reverse is particularly attractive to collectors because of its simple but distinctive appearance. The two wheat stalks create a frame around the denomination and national name, while EPLURIBUS UNUM appears above. The wheat imagery is commonly associated with agriculture, prosperity, and abundance. The design remained familiar to generations of Americans until it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959. The 1953D is therefore only 6 years away from the end of the wheat reverse. This makes it a useful coin for collectors studying the later years of the series. A collector assembling a complete Lincoln Wheat cent set will normally include the 1953D alongside the Philadelphia and San Francisco issues from the same year. Comparing these coins can help collectors understand mint marks, production differences, condition, and the effect of circulation on copper surfaces. When examining a 1953D, collectors should start by confirming the 1953 date and D mint mark. After that, inspect the overall condition of the coin. Look carefully at Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, coat, and the word Liberty. Check the date for wear or damage. On the reverse, examine the wheat stalks, lettering, and motto. Strong detail throughout the coin can be especially desirable for an uncirculated example. The surfaces should also be examined for scratches, carbon spots, stains, corrosion, dents, and cleaning. Copper is particularly susceptible to environmental changes, so old wheat cents can develop a wide range of surface appearances. Some natural tunning is normal and can be attractive. However, harsh cleaning can leave fine hairlines and an unnatural appearance. Collectors generally prefer original surfaces, so a 1953D should not be polished simply to make it appear brighter. Another important characteristic is strike quality. A coin can be technically uncirculated but have areas where the design was not fully struck. Collectors seeking premium examples often prefer sharp details, strong mint luster, clean surfaces, and attractive color. The wheat ears and Lincoln's hair can provide useful clues when judging the strength of the strike. The 1953D also demonstrates why an old coin's value cannot be determined from its age alone. A 1953 coin is more than 7 decades old, but age does not automatically make it rare. The original mintage was very large, and many examples remain. Instead, the collector market places greater emphasis on rarity, grade, originality, varieties, and demand. A worn 1953D can be a relatively inexpensive collectible, while an exceptional certified example can command a substantial premium. There are also proof Lincoln cents from 1953, but a normal 1953 D is a business strike Denver issue, not a proof. Proof coins were made separately for collectors and have different striking and surface characteristics. Therefore, anyone researching the value of a 1953 Lincoln cent should first establish whether it is a normal circulation strike, a proof, or a recognized variety. The 1956 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark is a United States 1-cent coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The absence of a mint mark is normal for this issue and does not mean that the mint mark has been removed. Philadelphia generally used no mint mark on its Lincoln cents during this period, while coins struck at Denver carried a D, and those struck at San Francisco carried an S. The 1956 Philadelphia Lincoln cent belongs to the later years of the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series, which began in 1909 and continued until 1958. This makes the 1956 issue particularly interesting, because only a few years remained before the historic wheat ear reverse was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. The obverse of the 1956 Lincoln Wheat Penny carries the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. The portrait was created by Victor David Brenner and first appeared on the Lincoln cent in 1909. Above Lincoln's portrait is the inscription, "In God We Trust." To the left of Lincoln is Liberty, while the date, 1956, appears on the right side. Because this particular coin was struck at Philadelphia, there is no mint mark near the date. The combination of the date and the absence of a mint mark identifies the regular Philadelphia issue. The reverse is the classic wheat ear reverse, which gives this coin its popular name, the Lincoln Wheat Penny. Two wheat stalks curve around the central inscriptions. At the top is the Latin motto E Pluribus Unum, meaning out of many one. In the center are the words 1 cent, and underneath is United States of America. The wheat design was used from 1909 through 1958, so the 1956 coin is one of the final examples of this historic reverse. Collectors often enjoy the wheat reverse because it is simple, recognizable, and strongly associated with early and mid-20th century American coinage. The regular 1956 Philadelphia Lincoln cent had a reported mintage of approximately 420,745,000 pieces. This is a substantial production figure, so the date is generally available in circulated condition. A large mintage, however, does not mean every grade is equally common. Many of the original coins were spent repeatedly, exposed to moisture, scratched, stained, or otherwise damaged. High-grade examples with excellent surfaces and original color are much more challenging to find. This difference between overall mintage and high-grade survival is an important concept in Lincoln cent collecting. The 1956 Lincoln cent was made from the traditional bronze composition used for regular Lincoln cents of this era. It is approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, with a diameter of about 19 millimeters, a weight of approximately 3.11 grams, and a plain edge. Because the coin contains a large amount of copper, its color can change naturally over time. Depending on storage and environmental exposure, a 1956 cent may appear brown, reddish-brown, or red. These natural color differences can be especially important when collectors evaluate uncirculated specimens. The no mint mark on the 1956 Lincoln cent is a key identification feature. A Philadelphia coin does not need a letter to identify it, because the absence of a mint mark indicates Philadelphia for this regular issue. By comparison, a 1956 D has a D mint mark and was struck at Denver, while a 1956 S has an S mint mark and was struck at San Francisco. Collectors who are building a complete Lincoln Wheat Penny collection often collect each date and mint combination separately. The historical background of the 1956 cent is also fascinating. The United States was living through a period of significant economic growth and social change during the middle of the 1950s. World War II had ended more than a decade earlier, and American industry was expanding. Automobiles, household appliances, television, and consumer products were becoming increasingly important parts of everyday American life. The Lincoln Wheat Penny circulated through this rapidly changing economy, making each surviving example a small physical connection to the 1950s. The 1956 cent was also produced during the final chapter of the wheat cent era. By this point, the Lincoln portrait had already been familiar to Americans for nearly half a century. The wheat reverse had survived 2 world wars, the Great Depression, major economic changes, and the beginning of the post-war era. Only 2 more years of regular wheat cents would follow after 1956. In 1959, the reverse was changed to the Lincoln Memorial, marking the end of the wheat ear design. The condition of a 1956 no-mint mark Lincoln cent has a major effect on its collector desirability. A heavily circulated example may show considerable wear on Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, and coat. The wheat stalks on the reverse may also lose their finer details. An uncirculated example should show little or no evidence of circulation, although it can still have contact marks from other coins. High-grade collectors look for coins with sharp details, clean surfaces, attractive luster, and strong overall eye appeal. Copper color is particularly important. Professional grading services commonly use 3 color designations for copper Lincoln cents: BN, RB, and RD. BN stands for brown, RB means red-brown, and RD means red. A brown coin has experienced substantial natural color change, while a red-brown coin retains some original reddish coloration. A red coin retains much more of the original mint color. A high-grade 1956 cent with attractive original red color can be considerably more desirable than a brown example of the same numerical grade. Collectors should remember that original color is not the same thing as artificially brightened color. Copper coins can be cleaned or chemically treated to make them appear brighter. Such treatment can damage the natural surface and leave an unnatural appearance. A collector should never polish a 1956 wheat penny simply because it looks dark. Natural tunning is part of the coin's history, and original surfaces are generally preferred in numismatics. The strike quality of a 1956 Lincoln cent is another feature worth examining. A coin can have very little circulation wear but still have some areas where the design was not struck with maximum strength. Collectors seeking high-grade examples often prefer sharp details on Lincoln's portrait and strong definition in the wheat ears and lettering. Strong mint luster combined with clean surfaces and attractive color can make an uncirculated 1956 Philadelphia cent particularly appealing. The mintage of approximately 420.7 million means that the 1956 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is not normally considered a rare date in circulated grades. However, collectors should not assume that every 1956 cent is identical in value. The actual condition can create a major difference. A worn coin found in circulation may have modest collector value, while an exceptionally preserved specimen with excellent red color can be much more valuable. The highest grades are where condition rarity becomes increasingly important. The 1956 Philadelphia cent can be compared with the 1956 D and 1956 S Lincoln cents. The 3 issues have the same basic design and denomination, but the mint mark identifies where they were produced. Philadelphia examples have no mint mark, Denver examples have a D, and San Francisco examples have an S. A collector assembling a Dayton mint collection can therefore place the 3 1956 issues together and study the differences in availability, strike quality, and condition. The 1956 Lincoln cent is also important because of the famous 1955 double die obverse that had occurred only 1 year earlier. Although the 1956 Philadelphia cent is a normal issue, the Lincoln Wheat series contains numerous varieties and errors across different years. This makes the series particularly interesting for collectors who enjoy searching through coins for unusual characteristics. However, an ordinary scratch, dent, or damaged letter should not automatically be considered a valuable error. When examining a 1956 no-mint mark penny for possible varieties, collectors should use magnification and good lighting. Look at the date, lettering, Lincoln's portrait, and the reverse inscriptions. If something appears doubled or unusually shaped, compare it with recognized references before assuming it is a rare variety. Post-mint damage can create shapes that look unusual but have no special collector premium. The 1956 Lincoln Wheat Penny is also an excellent coin for beginners because it allows them to learn basic grading concepts without requiring an extremely rare date. A collector can compare a worn 1956 cent with an about uncirculated example and then examine several mint-state pieces. The differences in luster, surface marks, color, and design detail become easier to understand through direct comparison. A useful method for examining the coin is to start with the date and mint identification, followed by the overall condition. Look closely at Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, coat, and the word Liberty. Examine the date for wear and damage. Then turn the coin over and inspect the wheat stalks, EPLURIBUSUNUM 1 cent, and United States of America. Finally, examine the surfaces under angled light to look for scratches, spots, stains, or cleaning. Proper handling is extremely important for old copper coins. The coin should preferably be held by its edges instead of touching the front and back surfaces. Finger oils can leave residue, and moisture can contribute to long-term surface changes. A suitable coin holder can protect the penny from unnecessary contact and environmental exposure. Collectors should avoid household chemicals, abrasive materials, metal polish, and aggressive cleaning methods. The 1957 D. Lincoln Wheat Penny is a classic United States 1-cent coin struck at the Denver Mint and is part of the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series, which ran from 1909 through 1958. This particular coin carries the D Mint mark, identifying Denver as the place where it was produced. The 1957 D cent has a face value of 1 cent, or 1 cent, but collectors are interested in it because of its historical connection to the final years of the Wheat Cent series, its traditional bronze composition, its Lincoln portrait, and its attractive wheatier reverse design. According to PCGS Coin Facts, the 1957 D Lincoln cent had a large mintage of 1,051,342,000 pieces, making it a common date in circulated condition, although very high-grade examples can become considerably more difficult to find. The obverse, or front side, of the 1957 D Lincoln Wheat Penny features a right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Lincoln's portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner, whose Lincoln cent design was first introduced in 1909. Above Lincoln's portrait is the inscription "In God We Trust," while the word "Liberty" appears to the left of the portrait. On the right side is the date 1957, followed by the small D mint mark representing the Denver Mint. The arrangement of these inscriptions makes the obverse immediately recognizable as a Lincoln Wheat cent. Collectors normally examine this side carefully for the sharpness of Lincoln's portrait, the condition of the lettering, the visibility of the date, and any unusual marks, doubling, die characteristics, or other varieties. The reverse of the 1957 D Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. It displays 2 wheat ears surrounding the central inscriptions "1 cent" and United States of America. Above the denomination is the traditional Latin motto, EPLURIBUSUNUM, meaning "out of many, one." The wheatier design is the reason these coins are commonly called wheat pennies, wheat cents, or wheaties. The wheat reverse was used throughout the first major era of the Lincoln cent, from 1909 until 1958. Beginning in 1959, the reverse was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design, making the 1957 D one of the final regular-issue wheat cents before the major design change. The physical specifications of the 1957 D Lincoln cent are also important for collectors. The coin has a diameter of approximately 19 millimeters and weighs about 3.11 grams. Its traditional bronze alloy consists of approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, and it has a plain edge rather than a reeded edge. These specifications are consistent with the bronze Lincoln cents produced during this period. The composition is especially significant because the 1957 D cent belongs to the classic bronze era of the Lincoln cent, decades before the modern copper-plated zinc composition became standard. The D mint mark is one of the most important identifying features of this coin. It appears on the obverse, to the right of Lincoln's portrait and near the date. A 1957 Lincoln cent without a mint mark was produced at Philadelphia, while a coin bearing the D was produced at Denver. Therefore, when examining a 1957 cent, collectors should first check the area around the date to determine whether the D mint mark is present. The 1957 D variety is specifically cataloged as a Denver Mint issue and had a mintage of 1,051,342,000 coins. Although more than 1 billion examples were produced, the 1957 D Lincoln Wheat Penny should not automatically be considered worthless simply because its mintage was large. Coin value depends heavily on condition, color, strike quality, surface preservation, and collector demand. PCGS describes the 1957 D as a very common coin in most grades, but examples above MS66 become much more difficult to find. This means that an ordinary circulated 1957 D cent may have only a modest collector premium, while an exceptionally preserved mint-state example can be far more desirable. One of the most important factors in evaluating a 1957 D Lincoln cent is its color designation. Copper coins naturally change color over time, and professional grading services commonly classify Lincoln cents as BN, RB, or RD. BN means brown, RB means red-brown, and RD means red. A brown coin generally shows substantial natural oxidation and darker coloration, while a red-brown coin retains a mixture of original reddish copper and darker tones. A red example has retained a large amount of its original bright copper color and can command a substantial premium when combined with a high grade. PCGS lists separate 1957 D varieties for BN, RB, and RD examples. The preservation of the coin's original red color can be particularly important at the highest grades. PCGS notes that desirable high-grade 1957 D cents should ideally be spot-free, fully struck, and exhibit strong original red color. Carbon spots and other surface problems can significantly affect the desirability of an otherwise attractive coin. This is why two 1957 D pennies that look similar to an inexperienced collector may have very different market values after professional grading. The condition of a coin is usually described using the Sheldon grading scale, ranging from heavily worn grades to extremely high mint-state grades. Circulated examples can show wear on Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, and other high points, while the wheat ears and lettering on the reverse can also lose detail. An uncirculated coin that has never entered normal circulation can retain much sharper details. However, simply being uncirculated does not automatically make a 1957 D cent rare. The highest grades are where scarcity becomes much more important. For example, PCGS estimates approximately 105 million surviving 1957 D cents in all grades, with estimated survival of about 14,000 in MS60 or better, and about 7,000 in MS65 or better. These are estimates rather than an exact census of every surviving coin, but they illustrate why high-grade examples are substantially more interesting to collectors than ordinary circulated pieces. The difference becomes especially dramatic at the top of the grading scale. Graysheet notes that the 1957 D Lincoln cent is extremely common in circulated grades and remains common in uncirculated grades through approximately MS-66, while MS-67 examples are scarce and higher-grade specimens can bring four-figure prices when offered. This is an important lesson for anyone researching the coin. Mintage alone does not determine rarity. A coin can have a huge original production number and still become valuable when very few examples survive in exceptional condition. The auction history of the finest examples demonstrates this point. PCGS records an auction result of $6,600 for a 1957 D Lincoln cent graded MS-67 plus RD, sold by Stax Bowers on May 29, 2019. This result should not be interpreted as the normal value of every 1957 D penny. Instead, it demonstrates the enormous premium that can exist for an unusually high-grade, fully read, professionally certified example. An ordinary worn 1957 D cent is a completely different market category from an elite MS-67 plus RD coin. When searching through a group of old pennies, collectors should inspect the 1957 D carefully rather than assuming that every example is ordinary. Start by confirming the date and D mint mark. Next, examine Lincoln's portrait for signs of wear. Look at the date and lettering for sharpness and possible abnormalities. Turn the coin over and inspect the wheat ears, the words 1 cent, United States of America, and EPLURIBUS UNUM. Then examine the surfaces under good lighting for scratches, corrosion, carbon spots, stains, cleaning, dents, or unusual die characteristics. Cleaning is particularly important because an old copper coin with an unnatural bright appearance may actually be less desirable than a naturally toned example. Collectors generally prefer original surfaces. Harsh cleaning can leave hairline scratches and an unnatural appearance that may reduce collector appeal. Therefore, if someone discovers a potentially valuable 1957 D cent, it is usually better to preserve the coin in its existing condition rather than attempting to polish or chemically clean it. Another important consideration is strike quality. A coin can have little circulation wear but still have areas that were not fully struck during manufacture. On high-grade Lincoln cents, collectors often pay attention to how clearly the design details were brought up by the dies. A strong strike can make Lincoln's portrait and the wheat-ear reverse appear much more attractive. PCGS specifically emphasizes fully struck, clean examples when discussing desirable 1957 D cents. The historical importance of the 1957 D cent also comes from its position near the end of the wheat cent era. The Lincoln Wheat cent began in 1909 and continued for nearly half a century. During that period, the United States experienced enormous historical changes, including 2 world wars, the Great Depression, technological transformation, and major social and economic developments. A small 1 cent coin such as the 1957 D, therefore, represents a physical connection to mid-20th century American history. The wheat reverse itself had already become a familiar part of everyday American commerce by the time this coin was struck. The 1957 D cent is also interesting because it belongs to the final 2 years of the original wheat reverse. In 1958, the final regular Lincoln wheat cents were struck, and in 1959 the reverse changed to the Lincoln Memorial design. This makes 1957 D a late-generation wheat cent and an excellent addition to a collection focused on the history of American 1 cent coinage. Collectors should also understand the difference between mintage and surviving population. Mintage refers to how many coins were originally produced. Survival estimates attempt to determine how many may still exist today. More than 1 billion 1957 D cents were originally minted, but many were spent repeatedly, lost, damaged, melted, or otherwise removed from collectible condition. Consequently, the number of coins surviving in top condition is much smaller than the original mintage. The 1957 D Lincoln Wheat Penny is therefore best viewed as a coin with broad availability in ordinary condition, but meaningful scarcity at the highest grades. This combination makes it interesting to both beginning collectors and advanced Lincoln cent specialists. A beginner can easily obtain a circulated example for a wheat cent collection, while an advanced collector may spend considerable effort searching for a superior red, sharply struck, nearly flawless specimen. The 1958 D Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of the most historically interesting coins in the Lincoln cent series because it belongs to the final year of the regular Lincoln wheat cent design. This United States 1-cent coin was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark located on the obverse near the date. The 1958 D is especially important to collectors because the wheat reverse was discontinued after 1958, with the Lincoln Memorial reverse introduced in 1959. As a result, this coin represents the closing chapter of the original wheat ear reverse that had been used since 1909. PCGS records a regular 1958 D Lincoln cent mintage of approximately 800,953,300 pieces, making it a widely produced coin but an important final year issue. PCGS.com, https://www.pcgs.com/coin/1958D1CBN/2854, item source equals chat.com. The obverse, or front side, of the 1958 D Lincoln Wheat Penny features the famous right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. The portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner, whose Lincoln cent design was first introduced in 1909. Above Lincoln's portrait is the inscription "In God We Trust." To the left of Lincoln is the word "Liberty," while the date, 1958, appears on the right. Immediately beside the date is the D Mint mark, confirming that this particular coin was struck at the Denver Mint. These elements make the 1958 D easy to identify and also provide several areas that collectors examine when evaluating the coin's condition. The reverse of the 1958 D Lincoln cent displays the famous two wheat ears surrounding the central inscriptions. At the top is the Latin motto E Pluribus Unum, meaning out of many, one. In the center are the words 1 cent, while United States of America appears below. This wheat ear reverse was used on Lincoln cents from 1909 through 1958. The 1958 D is therefore not simply another wheat penny. It is one of the final regular issue examples of the original design. In 1959, the United States Mint replaced the wheat reverse with a new design showing the Lincoln Memorial. PCGS.com, https://www.pcgs.com/coinfax/coin/1958D1CBN/2854, item source equals chat.com. The 1958 D Lincoln cent was made from the traditional bronze composition used for regular Lincoln cents of the period. It contains approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, has a diameter of about 19 millimeters, weighs approximately 3.11 grams, and has a plain edge. These specifications make it part of the classic bronze Lincoln cent era. The copper content also explains why many surviving examples have developed brown, reddish-brown, or red coloration depending on how they were stored, and how much of their original surface color has survived. PCGS.com, https://www.pcgs.com/coinfax/coin/1958D1CBN/2854, item source equals chat.com. The D Mint mark is one of the most important identifying features of the coin. It appears on the obverse, near the date, and to the right of Lincoln's portrait. Philadelphia cents from this period normally carry no mint mark, while Denver cents carry the letter D and San Francisco cents carry an S. Therefore, when examining a 1958 Lincoln cent, a collector should first check whether a D, S, or no mint mark is present. A 1958 cent with a clearly visible D is identified as the Denver issue. The large mintage of the 1958 D means that the coin is not considered rare simply because it is from the final year of the wheat reverse. More than 800 million were struck, and many examples survived. However, the situation changes dramatically when condition is considered. Ordinary circulated examples are relatively easy to find, while coins in the highest mint state grades are much scarcer. This is a classic example of the difference between mintage rarity and condition rarity. A coin can have a very large original mintage and still have valuable high-grade survivors. The condition of a 1958 D Lincoln cent is normally described using the standard Sheldon grading scale. Circulated coins may show wear on Lincoln's cheek, jaw, hair, and coat, while the wheat ears and reverse lettering may also show flattening. Uncirculated coins retain their original design details because they did not experience normal circulation. However, an uncirculated coin can still have marks from contact with other coins, carbon spots, discoloration, or weak strike characteristics. For this reason, simply calling a coin uncirculated is not enough to determine its value. Copper color is another major consideration. Professional grading services commonly classify Lincoln cents as BN, RB, or RD. BN means brown, RB means red-brown, and RD means red. A brown 1958 D may have substantial natural darkening, while a red-brown example retains a mixture of original reddish copper and darker tones. A red example retains a much larger portion of its original copper color. In high grades, original red color can dramatically increase collector interest, particularly when the surfaces are clean and the strike is strong. PCGS notes that the 1958 D is common in circulated grades, but becomes much more challenging in the finest grades. PCGS estimates surviving populations in the hundreds of millions overall, while the number of coins surviving in the very highest grades is much smaller. This demonstrates why collectors should not judge a 1958 D simply by its original mintage. The most desirable coins are those that combine high grade, original color, strong strike, and attractive surfaces. PCGS.com, https://www.pcgs.com/coinfax/coin/1958D1CBN/2854 Udum source equals chat.com. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1958 D is its position at the end of the wheat cent era. The Lincoln Wheat Cent had been introduced in 1909, making the wheat reverse nearly 50 years old by 1958. During those decades, the United States experienced enormous historical events, including World War I, the Roaring Twenties, the Great Depression, World War II, and the early Cold War. A 1958 D penny therefore represents the final stage of a coin design that had circulated through some of the most transformative years in American history. The following year, 1959, brought a major design change. Instead of the wheat ears, the reverse displayed the Lincoln Memorial. The new reverse was introduced to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. This transition made 1958 the final regular year of the wheat ear reverse. Because of this historical cutoff, collectors often regard 1958 D as a particularly satisfying coin to own, especially when completing a Lincoln Wheat Cent collection. The phrase, final year, should nevertheless be understood correctly. The 1958 D is important because it is a final year regular issue, but it is not automatically rare. Large numbers were produced and many survived. Collectors should be cautious of advertisements suggesting that every 1958 D wheat penny is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars merely because it is a final year coin. In reality, most circulated examples have modest values, while exceptional certified coins can be much more valuable. The coin's inscriptions are also worth examining closely. "In God W.E. Trust" appears above Lincoln, Liberty is positioned to his left, and the date with the D mint mark appears to the right. On the reverse, EPLURIBUSUNUM appears above the wheat ears, while 1 cent and United States of America identify the denomination and issuing country. These inscriptions combine political, national, and symbolic elements in a very small piece of metal. The wheat ear reverse itself is one of the most recognizable designs in American numismatics. The two wheat stalks surrounding the lettering were intended to symbolize agricultural prosperity and abundance. The simplicity of the design made the coin immediately recognizable to generations of Americans. Even today, collectors often use the terms wheat penny, wheat cent, and wheatie when referring to Lincoln cents with this reverse. When examining a 1958 D, collectors should carefully inspect Lincoln's portrait and the surrounding lettering. Look at the hair above Lincoln's ear, the cheek and jaw, the coat, the word Liberty, the date, and the D mint mark. On the reverse, inspect the wheat ears, the central lettering, and the motto. Strong details are especially desirable in mint-state examples. A coin with attractive original surfaces and sharp design elements can be significantly more appealing than a technically similar coin with scratches or stains. Carbon spots are an important issue for copper Lincoln cents. Small dark spots can develop on the surfaces and may negatively affect the appearance and desirability of a coin. This is especially important for high-grade red examples, where collectors expect clean, attractive surfaces. A high numerical grade does not automatically guarantee beautiful eye appeal, so collectors should consider both the technical grade and the actual appearance of the coin. Collectors should also watch for evidence of cleaning. A naturally aged copper coin can have brown or reddish coloration, but an aggressively cleaned coin may have an unnatural bright appearance and fine hairline scratches. Cleaning generally reduces collector appeal because it alters the original surface. If a potentially valuable 1958 D penny is discovered, it is better to leave it in its existing condition rather than attempting to polish it. The 1958 D also provides a useful lesson in identifying mint-made errors versus post-mint damage. Old coins frequently acquire scratches, dents, discoloration, rim damage, and other marks during circulation. These features do not automatically make a coin valuable. A genuine mint error must have occurred during the manufacturing process. Collectors should compare unusual features with trusted references, and for potentially significant examples, consider professional authentication.